Dear Sagittarius, there is a truth you were never meant to know. A betrayal, silent, intentional, and dangerously close, is about to be revealed. And the one behind it is not a stranger. You once laughed with them, trusted them, maybe even loved them. But the universe is no longer silent. The truth is coming, not to break you, but to awaken you. Don't look away, because once the mask falls, nothing will ever be the same again. Perhaps in that very moment just now, a face flashed through your mind. You don't need to be sure. You only need to be honest with your first feeling. And if you feel called, you may share in the comments. Have you ever felt a betrayal, even with no proof from someone close to you? You don't need to explain. A symbol, a sensation, a single breath is enough for the universe to know you're ready to face it. And maybe what you're feeling right now isn't pain, it's your intuition. Waking up. That's where we'll begin. From the moment your soul starts listening to itself again. Have you ever walked into a room and felt a chill crawl down your spine without knowing why? Have you ever been talking to someone deeply familiar and suddenly a flicker of unease brushes past your heart? A sensation you can't name, no logic behind it, yet enough to make you stop and notice. Sagittarius, that isn't weakness. That isn't paranoia. That is your sixth sense. Or more precisely, your soul speaking to you in the language of energy. And sometimes, when betrayal is coming close, your soul speaks long before the truth shows itself. When the soul knows something is wrong. A listener once wrote to the show and shared, "I had no proof. My husband still came home on time, still held my hand before bed, still said I love you every morning. But I kept feeling like he was far away, even though his body was right there beside me." She said his eyes no longer touched her the way they once did. The morning hugs didn't linger anymore, and whenever she shared something from deep inside, he would simply nod, but he wasn't really listening. Those were the invisible signs, the kind only a sixth sense can catch. Her soul had already felt the fracture, even while everything outside was pretending to stay whole. She said his eyes no longer touched her the way they once did. The morning hugs no longer lingered, and every time she opened her heart to speak, he simply nodded, but didn't truly listen. Those were the invisible signs, the kind only the sixth sense can catch. Her soul had already felt the break, even as everything on the outside still pretended to be whole. You see, betrayal doesn't always arrive with a loud crash. Sometimes it's a quiet retreat, in the words not spoken, the gaze that won't meet yours, the spaces no longer filled with genuine presence. Why do you feel uneasy, even when nothing has officially happened? Have you noticed lately? You sleep lightly. Your dreams are strange. You keep encountering odd little coincidences. It could be a message that suddenly gets deleted, a phone call that ends the moment you answer, a subtle shift in someone's tone, but no one says anything aloud. You're not paranoid. That's your intuition at work. As a Sagittarius, guided by Jupiter, you're sensitive to energetic shifts in ways most people can't explain. Especially when someone starts hiding something, you don't need them to confess. You just need silence, and you'll know. The sixth sense doesn't need evidence. It only needs your willingness to listen. This story is more common than you think. I knew something wasn't right, but I told myself, maybe I'm just overthinking. And then, weeks later, the truth came out. The best friend you trusted took credit for the project you poured your heart into. The person you love suddenly had a deep friendship with someone new, or that colleague you thought had your back was the one feeding rumors behind your name. And when the truth surfaced, the first question that echoed in your mind was, why didn't I trust myself? Subtle betrayals always leave behind a strange energy. Another listener once shared, every time my best friend visited, I felt drained afterward. At first, I thought I was just overly sensitive, but later, I found out she'd been sharing my private stories with the entire group. That wasn't superstition. That was your soul speaking, because when someone's energy no longer aligns with your frequency, your body reacts first. You might feel headaches after seeing them, restless sleep when thinking about them, a strange sense of being energetically drained after a simple conversation. In those moments, trust your first feeling. The soul doesn't lie. Betrayal isn't always about the act itself. Sometimes, it's the quiet surrender. Someone once said, "I'm not angry they lied to me. I'm angry they thought I'd never find out." Sagittarius, You don't need to catch someone red-handed to know they're not being honest with you. All you have to do is quietly observe how they act when they think you're not paying attention. Those who are sincere will always remain natural, but those who are hiding something will start to perform. And that's when you must return to your first knowing, to the sixth sense you once ignored. So what should you do when something simply feels off? You don't have to confront it right away. You don't need to question them or even question yourself. The first thing you need to do is become still and write down what you're feeling. Keep a journal, a space for your intuition. Note the signs, the dreams, the odd little moments, the coincidences that don't feel so random, because often those small details are the quiet warnings the universe sends to prepare your spirit for what's about to unfold. The universe always whispers before it reveals. The betrayal that's about to surface is not here to destroy you. It's here to free you from a lie you no longer need to live in. Remember, when your soul begins to ache, yet no one has done anything specific, that's when the truth is trying to rise to the surface. The universe has already sent the signs. Your intuition has already sensed them. Now is the time to learn how to trust yourself again. And if you feel distance growing between you and someone who once felt so close, if their answers no longer satisfy your soul, then maybe what you're facing isn't just betrayal. It's an emotional lesson sent to heal you from the root. Let's step into the next space together, where we look deeper into the heart, into your feelings, and into the cracks forming inside relationships once considered safe. Some things don't break with noise. They break in silence, between two people who were once inseparable, but now every word feels like it needs to be measured. You know, betrayal doesn't always show up in obvious actions. Sometimes it happens in that moment you speak your truth, and they look at you as if your heart is an inconvenience. Betrayal begins when your feelings are no longer protected. When your vulnerability becomes something to dismiss. When the way they look at you no longer holds presence, only quiet rejection. Not all breaks come from anger. Some happen through the slow, steady chill of indifference. Through texts that go unanswered. Through questions met with shorter and shorter replies. Through the feeling that you're holding the relationship together on your own. Because love, when left unnurtured, can die quietly in the very place that once felt like home. And Sagittarius, you felt it. Even when they said nothing's changed, you knew everything had. You were simply the last one still holding the faith. Remember, when your heart starts feeling alone in a relationship that still exists, it's your soul responding. Love is not just words. It's how someone shows up when you're not okay. It's how they stay present with your pain instead of avoiding it. The greatest betrayal may not be falling in love with someone else. It may be no longer trying to understand you. I once believed that love was enough to keep people from hurting each other. But later I learned, love alone is not enough. You deserve to be seen, to be heard, to be felt. And if someone knows you're in pain and still stays silent, then you're not wrong for feeling like you're slowly disappearing inside the very love you've been trying to protect. Real love doesn't make you question your worth. It helps you shine brighter. Not because someone loves you, but because you are finally allowed to be who you truly are and still feel safe. Jupiter, your ruling planet, is a symbol of expansion and faith. You love with honesty. You trust bravely. And for that reason, you get hurt when that trust isn't honored. But the universe is showing you now, not everyone deserves to continue on your path, even if they once walked beside you. You are not weak for feeling hurt. You are honest. Don't let anyone tell you you're too sensitive or too fragile, because your emotions are one of the greatest gifts you were given for this lifetime. And sometimes, betrayal is simply the universe releasing you from a place your heart no longer belongs to. Maybe you once called someone home, and now you find yourself locked out. Everything looks the same, they're still there, but the door has been bolted from the inside, and you're standing outside, not because you didn't try, but because they changed the lock without telling you. And I know you're tired of wondering where you went wrong. But maybe you didn't. Maybe you just loved someone who didn't know how to love you back. If you're in a relationship where you've been trying so hard just to hold on, try writing down one thing. How am I really feeling in this relationship? You don't need to send it. You don't need to confront anyone. Just write it so that you can finally see yourself clearly. And if you feel ready, you can share this in the comments. What was the first sign that made you feel your emotions were no longer being valued? We'll read them, and we'll hold space for one another with compassion. You are not invisible. You are not weak. You are returning to the most honest version of yourself. If a relationship is causing you to lose who you are, then walking away from it is not a failure. It is the bravest thing you've ever done for your own heart. And when your heart begins to heal, you'll start to see more clearly. Some attachments were never built on love, but on control. Some people didn't stay because they loved you. They stayed because they feared losing their power to manipulate you. In the next chapter, we'll enter the energy of career and finances, where the very people who once said, "I believe in you," may have quietly held you back. Don't go just yet, because soon you'll realize betrayal doesn't always live in the heart. Sometimes it hides in the life choices we make. Have you ever noticed, every time you step close to a real opportunity, someone shows up and softly plants a seed of doubt? Are you sure you're ready for this? Is this really the right time to take that risk? I just want to protect you. The words sound kind, but your soul knows something's off. It's not that their advice is wrong, it's that the energy behind it isn't clean. Sagittarius, betrayal in your work isn't always a sharp stab in the back. Sometimes it's a hand on your shoulder, followed by a hollow smile. When you share an idea and a few weeks later someone uses it, without ever mentioning your name. When you're suggested for a new position but last minute, someone else takes your place for internal reasons. When you trust a collaborator, only to find they've been quietly undermining your value to others. Have you ever experienced something like this? If so, comment. I was replaced in silence. If you've ever been quietly pushed aside without knowing why. Right now, Jupiter, your ruling planet, is moving through your career and financial sector. This means two things. 1, you are being strongly pushed out of your comfort zone. 2, the fake relationships in your professional world are about to show their true faces. This is no longer a time to cope and adjust. This is the season where the universe asks you to be honest about your ambition. And most importantly, to clearly see who truly wants to see you rise and who only wants you to stay right where they feel most comfortable. Have you ever had someone who always seemed to hold the door for you? They promised to connect you with the right people. They acted like a mentor. You trusted them, but slowly you noticed delays, excuses, disappearing support. And then you realized maybe they never wanted to lift you. Maybe they just wanted to keep you close, so you wouldn't grow beyond them. That too is a quiet betrayal. They didn't pull you down, they just kept you from flying. Some people can't stand to see you succeed, not because you're too much, but because your growth reflects their stagnation. Every step you take forward reminds them that they've been standing still, and instead of changing, they choose to pull you back, disguised as concern. Have you ever known someone who claimed to love you, but made you think smaller, dream less? If so, share this in the comments. Who was someone you thought was lifting you, but later realized was quietly holding you back? There's one thing I've learned after many betrayals in my career. You don't need anyone's permission to shine. You don't need anyone's agreement to move forward. You don't need applause to confirm your worth. You are not someone's draft version. You are the completed masterpiece. And only you understand the path your soul was meant to take. And if someone can't celebrate your success, then maybe they never truly supported you to begin with. Have you ever been removed from an opportunity and only later realized, thank goodness, if I had stayed there, I wouldn't have grown into who I am now? If so, share it in the comments. You might be the light someone else needs as they walk through their own moment of rejection. I wasn't rejected. I was being redirected. I didn't lose an opportunity. I was being protected from a space that no longer aligned with me. I didn't fall behind. I was being prepared to break through. Tonight, try writing down these 3 things. 1, an opportunity you recently felt was almost yours. 2, the first person you told and how they responded. 3, how you felt after that conversation. You'll begin to see who opens the door with love and who guards it with fear. Not everyone who starts with you will walk with you to the end, and that's okay. Some souls were only meant to walk part of the way, to teach you how to let go. Some who once felt like allies may become your greatest teachers in boundaries and awakening. And if you're feeling lost in your career right now, trust this. Clarity is coming. Truth is surfacing. And wherever your heart feels lighter, that is where you belong. Now, let's go even deeper, into family and social relationships, where old roles are dissolving, and the truths hiding in blood ties and old friendships are ready to be seen. Because sometimes, betrayal doesn't come from outside. It comes from those who've walked with you since the very beginning. And those wounds, they need to be looked at so they can finally be healed from the root. No one taught us how to question those we love. We were raised to respect family, to stay loyal to friends, to keep the peace at every dinner table. So when betrayal happens inside what we thought was home, our soul trembles harder than ever. How can it be that the person you call blood was the one who wounded you the deepest? A viewer once wrote, "It took me over 30 years to admit that it was my own brother who made me feel the smallest and most worthless I've ever felt in my life." Every time she brought up a new idea, he scoffed. Every success she had, he explained away as luck. The family called it playful teasing between siblings. But she knew each word was another blade to her self-worth. Sound familiar? Is there someone in your life who makes you shrink every time they walk into the room? If so, share in the comments. I used to feel small around my family. Family should have been the first place we return to when we're tired. But for some, it's the first place we learn to doubt our own emotions. It's the parent who always reminds you, be grateful, others have it worse. It's the sibling who subtly competes or cuts you down with a smile at the dinner table. It's the relatives who treat you like a stranger just because you chose to live differently. Sagittarius, you are not ungrateful just because you no longer choose silence. You are protecting the inner child within you, the one who was hurt but never spoke up. With Jupiter as your ruler, you are the bringer of light, the spark of inspiration. But sometimes that very light becomes a thorn to those who aren't ready to grow. You chose to forgive, to be compassionate, to move forward, while they chose to remain in the comfort zone of their own pain. And the heartbreaking truth is this: the more you shine, the more they try to make you question your own light. A woman once confided, "I've had a best friend since middle school. She stood by me in my hardest moments, but every time something good happened in my life, she'd disappear for a few days, then come back and say, 'You're doing so well. Maybe I'm just not meant to be your friend anymore.'" Have you ever experienced something like that? A friend who was right beside you when you were on the ground, but stepped back the moment you began to rise. Betrayal isn't always a knife in the back. Sometimes it's silence, in the exact moment you needed to be seen. You don't have to name names, but try writing this sentence. The person who made me feel most rejected was the one I least expected. The truth begins to clear when we dare to name our feelings. And as you start to heal, you'll begin to see with more clarity. Some relationships only survive as long as you're the one in pain. You played the peacekeeper, the one who stayed silent, the one who held everything together. But when you began to love yourself more, to protect your boundaries, they said you'd changed, that you were distant, cold, too proud. And they were right. You're no longer whispering your dreams. You've outgrown the roles that were never meant to define you. I haven't lost family. I'm rediscovering myself. I didn't break the relationship. I'm releasing the ties that were silently hurting me. I'm not lonely. I'm being guided back to my true soul tribe. Today, if you can, set aside a moment to write a letter to the inner child within you. Write down the feelings you never had the courage to express. Write to the family member you endured silently for years. You don't have to send it. Just give yourself a space to breathe out the truth. If you've experienced a family dynamic that hurt you in ways you couldn't even name, leave a simple comment. Let us hold that light for you. Betrayal from the outside can hurt, but betrayal from the inside, from the ones closest to us, can shake the very core of who we believe we are. And in the end, the most painful part is not the betrayal itself. It's realizing that deep down, you felt it coming. But you didn't trust your own intuition. Now we enter the final chapter, the return of the past. This is the turning point, when an old secret resurfaces, and you begin to understand that everything hidden is circling back to complete a karmic loop. There are people who left your life as if they never mattered, and then one day they return, just as you were about to forget they ever existed, not to love you again, not even to apologize, but to bring with them a truth you were never told. And once again, your soul begins to tremble. Do you know why the past always finds its way back? Because deep connections, even when buried, remain like red threads that haven't yet been untied. The universe doesn't bring them back to hurt you all over again. It brings them back so you can finally see them, this time with the eyes of someone who has awakened. One viewer once wrote, "I was betrayed by my best friend. She shared my deepest secret with my ex, and it nearly destroyed me. We didn't speak for 8 years. Then last week, she showed up at my workplace out of nowhere. She didn't apologize. She just looked at me, teary-eyed, and said, 'I know I was wrong, but I never thought you'd become this strong.' Do you understand what that means? Sometimes people don't come back so you can forgive them. They come back so you can realize you no longer need them to. Sagittarius, your journey was never meant to be a straight line. You are the one who walks through jungles, across deserts, through storms, and still chooses to believe. The return of someone from your past or an old pain is a sign that you're ready to step into a higher energy. But before you rise, you must clear what's below. They'll say, 'I'm sorry, I just didn't know how to love you then. I was jealous. I didn't want you to pass me by. I only wanted the best for you. I just didn't know how to show it.' And then you realize, everything you once fought against no longer hurts you the way it used to. You're no longer forcing yourself into old patterns just to keep the peace. You no longer seek validation. You no longer need the apology to be free. The past might come knocking, but the door has long been closed from the inside. Still, you must face it, so you don't carry it forward. Picture this, you're standing before a great doorway. On one side, your old self, wounded, guarded, full of doubt. On the other side, the you that knows exactly who you are, what you deserve, and where you're going. The universe is opening this door for you, but you must enter empty-handed. You can't bring the old baggage with you. So what will you choose? To forgive but not return? Or to carry the pain and close the door on your own becoming? I am not defined by who walked away from me. I am not limited by old wounds. I am being reborn gently but with unshakable clarity. Who's the person you thought would never come back, but did? What was the very first feeling when they reappeared? Do you still need that apology, or is your next step already unfolding without it? If you have someone like that, leave a comment. I've learned what I needed to learn. And let the universe know you are ready to move on. Tonight, write a letter to the one who hurt you. Not to send, but to release. Write the things you once wished you could say. The questions left unanswered, and one final goodbye, not to reconnect, but to let go. You don't need a beautiful ending. You just need to end it, so you can begin again. Betrayal is real, pain is real, but so is your freedom. You've made it through the darkest winters of your soul, so you no longer need anyone else to light the way for you. You've seen enough to never repeat the same lessons again. And you've loved yourself enough to finally release what no longer resonates with your spirit. If you've stayed with this message until now, know this: you are no longer alone. The universe has been watching every step of your awakening, and you are being prepared for a new chapter that is more aligned, more honest, and more sacred than ever before. Sometimes, a closed door is how the sky finally opens. It's time to accept something. A version of you has just died, not because you were weak, but because you've grown beyond it. You're no longer someone who needs to explain their emotions to those who refuse to understand. You're no longer someone who stays silent just to hold together something that's already fallen apart. You're no longer someone who dims their own light just to be accepted in someone else's shadow. The betrayal you're about to uncover, it isn't here to break you. It's here to bury the version of you that once begged to be loved, to be heard, to be chosen. And from that place of collapse, a new version of you is rising. Stronger, wiser, freer. When you no longer fit inside the things that once caused you pain, that's when you know you're ready to step into a new reality. This is no longer a time to delay, no longer a moment to doubt. This is your moment to choose to live as who you really are. No more asking for permission, no more waiting for someone else's nod. If your heart is trembling right now, if you know you're standing at the edge of a truth you've long avoided, then don't keep it quiet. Step out of the old. Leave a comment, "I choose rebirth," if you're ready to walk through the door the universe is opening for you. The universe just needs your yes. The rest will unfold on its own. You've endured enough. Now, it's time to live true. No betrayal has the power to destroy you, but the old self, it's no longer allowed to come with you. Welcome home, Sagittarius reborn, not just living, but divinely guided.